Proceeds to sick bay. The doctor should look at it as soon as possible.
It is the way in which we propagate our species.
Please demonstrate how this is accomplished.
So, what's next?
I don't know.
Hi, and welcome to Casual Trek, a Star Trek recap and ranking podcast, brought to you by Nerd and Tie and Short Attention Spans. I'm Charlie Etheridge Nunn. I'm a writer and a fan of the short story writer Kelly Link.
Hi, I'm Mars Reed Labarto, a science fiction writer and a fan of Quibi. Okay, I'm not a fan of Quibi.
No one's a fan of Quibi.
I saw you said you didn't want to say Quibi on the show notes, and I can either say Harlan Ellison or Quibi. And what would Harlan Ellison do? Probably mail a dead gopher to Quibi.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so normally we watch stories from different Star Trek shows and rank them on a big list of best to worst. But this episode, we're doing something slightly different. In fact, for all of November, we're going to be having a look at the Short Trek series and putting it on its own shortlist. Before we go on, Miles, what non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying since we last spoke?
Charlie, remind me, Charlie, did I talk about The Exorcist last week?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's off because we're recording this earlier than usual, so my schedule's kind of been weird. Actually, I know what I have enjoyed this last week.
Oh yeah.
I rewatched Exorcist II: The Heretic, which is the sequel to one of the most critically acclaimed horror films of all time, where a Hollywood executive went, well, Friedkin doesn't want to do a sequel. Is the guy who just did Zardoz out of movie jail yet? And then he proceeds to take a huge line of cocaine and goes, because I want that guy. Exorcist II: The Heretic, in our current era where films are rebooted to be super loyal reboot trilogies, where the original film is treated as some high gospel, like with The Exorcist Believer, which is coming out soon, which I have no interest in seeing. It's fun to watch a sequel. Everyone involved just went, right, fuck it. We're going to go insane. We're going to introduce psychic powers. We're going to introduce weird African racism. We're going to get James Earl Jones, and we're going to stick him in a locust costume and scream. We're going to get Ennio Morricone to do the score.
Wow.
The film isn't great, but it's so insane in the swings it makes. It's entertaining for that. Also, Richard Burton has that wonderful, deep Welsh tenor of voice, and that's honestly worth the price of admission.
Oh, always good.
So, Charlie, what about you? What non-Star Trek thing did you watch this week?
Well, I watched a short by Wes Anderson.
Oh,
and
Henry Sugar?
Yeah, the wonderful story of Henry Sugar. It's not a Roald Dahl story that I was really aware of, having only followed him when I was, a tiny child.
Yes.
Wes Anderson is very Wes Anderson in this, but gloriously so, with a limited cast and a, network TV show amount of time. He manages to spin a fantastic yarn going from person to person to person, kind of in a matryoshka of stories, and the purposeful artifice. You can't really say that Wes Anderson movies are deeply immersive, or you feel like you're there, because there's always a sense of wonderful artificiality from the way people are posed, the way the filters on the cameras are, the way that color feels, and just the whole vibe of it. And this even more so, as you have Ralph Fiennes being Roald Dahl, talking to camera, and quite blatantly talking to camera, so the lighting even changes every time the camera on him changes. And then when we shift scene, he's there chatting to you, and you get literal props and sets and people quickly adjusting Ben Kingsley's wig and sorting out his moustache, or you get people like Richard Ayoade, who plays a doctor in one scene, and he's playing a yogi in another one. So even with the cast, they reuse the work and they play around with the mechanisms in all of the sets, which obviously aren't sets in the real world. They're fake, exaggerated, weird sets.
They're theatrical.
Yeah, and even things like Richard Ayoade as a yogi hovering on the ground, and all he did was got a crate, turned it one direction, and it's painted the same as the backdrop, and the camera moves slightly to make sure that it fits.
Did you see Asteroid City this year?
No, I do want.
Oh, Asteroid City is amazing, and this definitely feels like a step beyond some of the things they do in Asteroid City. But this isn't the Wes Anderson podcast.
No, I realise.
Okay, I am now in Wes Anderson tradition going to turn to the left in an audio medium. So, Charlie, tell us about short tracks.
Oh, so that's my left, not your left.
Yes. Stage left.
Thank you. We need to keep these things accurate for the audience at home. So the short treks were originally made mainly because the VFX was taking so long on Star Trek Discovery that they needed something to put out there. And these were all little short episodes, some of which tie into the Star Trek series that was going on at the time. Most of the time that's Discovery. But sometimes they get to play with the format a bit and have some fun with it. And a lot was shot on set. And even with that means when they actually go out on location, they film stuff out there as well. So they did do a really nice job with what they had. Some shows like Heroes and Lost would do webisodes where it was either people farting around while filming other things, or like little side stories that felt fairly unambitious. But with this, I think the shine on a lot of Discovery and what would become Strange New Worlds definitely helps this seem like, even if these are 8-15 minutes long, there's some real effort been put in. So yeah, and we ought to make a start because we're ranking 4 things for this episode. The entire first season of Short Treks. So our first episode is titled Runaway. It aired on the 4th of October 2018. It was written by Jenny Lumet and Alex Kurtzman, directed by Maya Villarvillo, and the UK and US number 1 hits. Yeah, we did those for these. I don't know why. The UK had Calvin Harris and Sam Smith with Promises, and the US had Maroon 5 with Cardi B and Girls Like You. I did not watch the video for the latter one. I watched the Todd in the Shadows video review of Maroon 5's Girls Like You because he is always a joy to watch when he goes off on one about Maroon 5.
I admit I never watch the music videos for these. I just stick them on, just go to Apple Music, pull them up. This one, because I had to listen to 12 episodes worth of music, I did have to make a Spotify playlist. These songs were fine. Like Promises definitely sounds like Brighton nightclub fare.
Yeah, I was watching these with Emma after a morning of writing, and she was saying that Sam Smith doesn't sound as trying too hard as they've been in the last few years, and I think it's because it was more a Calvin Harris joint, and it's definitely got that kind of slightly hazy nightclub kind of thing. Like, I don't know if you ever went to Medusa Bar on Preston Street.
No,
but it had this kind of slightly orangey tone and these blinds that the sun would get through, almost like some kind of colourful film noir. And with that and cigarette smoke, you'd get that kind of vibe from it.
I never went to cool. The few times I went to clubs when I lived in Brighton, I never went to cool clubs. I would end up at a club with some people from work, which meant boring like seafront places.
Yeah. And yeah, Maroon 5 I despise. I don't care for, and yeah, this song, it sticks in the head more than a lot of their work, but I still am not a fan.
I am aware of their work.
Yeah. So, I'll get recapping
All
us.
right. Okay, I've got my timer, and for the audience at home, instead of 5 minutes, we are going to try and recap each one in 2 minutes, or in Charlie's case, 4.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks. I like your confidence.
look, I send the big list. I feel my confidence is perfectly proportioned.
Yeah, if I ever find the patience to go back and re-listen to the episodes I forgot to list the overrun time on, we'll actually be able to calculate who overruns the most out of the two of us.
I think it would be you, but I know that every time I overrun, I overrun. So that might skew the results a bit. Anyway, I need you, Charlie Etheridge Nunn, to run away. And go.
So, some cargo's being dropped off on Discovery. Only one of the pods contains a person. Oh no, they're invisible and with glowing blood like a tiny predator. Tilly is off in her room getting judged by a hologram of her mum. She screams into a pillow, goes to the canteen, orders some ice cream.
Girl, been there.
Yeah, I was going to say, she goes and gets a strong coffee and some ice cream, and I know those feelings very well.
Been there.
Hell yeah. Yeah, something blurs past, committing the cardinal sin of spilling coffee. Tilly sees the glowing blood, and everything goes all poltergeist for a second. And it decloaks, and it's a girl, only she's a little hedgehoggy with some little spines that are coming out of her back, and she sounds a bit feral. And Tilly says, oh, this is a Zahian, a species who just discovered warp. The girl tastes some of Tilly's ice cream, likes it. Tilly offers her more, opens her communicator up, and hey, we can talk now. The girl is a bit of a braggart, to be honest. And Tilly says, well, you can't be all that if you didn't invent ice cream. Which, yeah, fair. The girl is Poe, and yes, like the Teletubby. She doesn't want to be shopped into the authorities and cloaks when other people turn up. Tilly blames this on an escaped space rabbit. The pair end up becoming friends back at Tilly's quarters, and apparently Poe's people mine dilithium, and she built an incubator to recrystallize it and stop the need for more mining of the planet, who she thinks of as her twin. The people on Zahia aren't listening to her, which Tilly can relate to. The other big twist here is Poe's brother was king, only he's dead, so she's due for a coronation, and people won't listen to her when she's queen. So yeah, she will go back, she will get crowned, and she gives Tilly a little dilithium crystal before she goes. Yeah.
I'm gonna be charitable and say you overran by 1 second.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna give it 3 because I did interrupt twice. You know what? If we want to be challenging sometime, we should drop the 5-minute timer and try just a minute rules and try and recap these episodes without hesitation, repetition, or deviation.
God, that feels like it'd be an interesting challenge.
That would indeed be magic to make the sanest man go mad.
Hey, Discovery reference.
I understood that reference because I made it.
Yeah. So yeah, this one, it was fine. For some reason, I thought this was the Tilly has an imaginary friend story arc that this linked to, but it's a different Tilly story of her befriending things and people, which in this case is just before, well, not just before, but this is set before Such Sweet Sorrow in Discovery Season 2, Episode 13, where she will meet Poe when she's, a queen. And it is that thing of, oh yeah, you're a smart scientist, you're not listened to, all of that. And then my violin gets a lot smaller when you're not going to get listened to because, you're going to be queen and ruling everything. It's like, well, yeah, my sympathy goes a little less far.
You can tell we're British.
Yeah. That, disdain for a monarchy.
Yeah. This made me realize how long it's been since I've watched any of Star Trek Discovery, not for this show, because I'm like, oh yeah, it's Tilly, the second best character.
Yeah, we like Tilly.
Like, I can relate to Tilly. She problem solves with espresso.
Yeah, exactly. Just stress eats and and ends up falling about creating a bit of a mess in the canteen, which again, been there. Yeah, it's fine. Like the commentary on it was quite nice with the writers going into why they were doing all of these, and yeah, I get that it's kind of a generally good thing. Going, hey, check out these two girls getting confident, loving science, all of that sort of thing. It's just the royal thing is like, why you didn't need to throw this in there. So the thing is, we normally have a big list of best to worst, which currently has 76 items on it. It will be 79 by the time you folks are hearing this. This is quite an easy decision of where to place it on this separate shortlist.
Fifth. I think it should go fifth.
Miles, you just have to be difficult.
I do.
I mean, if it's fifth, it's still the best and worst.
Yes, but it's still currently fifth on the list. A list of when it's fifth on a list of one.
Yeah. Again, I was shocked seeing the special effects and seeing it look like an actual proper episode, given this is just, little bits of farting around between seasons.
This is what people in the Doctor Who fandom would call VAM, value adding material.
Okay. Well, I didn't realize you guys had a...
Because Doctor Who DVDs and Blu-rays are like an encyclopedia of documentaries, features, special bonus content, interviews, because we're Doctor Who fans and we get a tad obsessive. So,
yeah, outside of Heroes and Lost, I realised as you were saying that about Doctor Who, I've been a fan of the Delgrassi, Canadian high school drama / just weird Canadian trauma machine, which is amazing. The place where Drake got school shooted, and all manner of horrors ended up happening. A kid had a fight club. Well, got in a fight club.
What?
He'd gone through some issues. He had ADHD. He had ball cancer. He was going through shit because you've only got so many cast members, and that means all of the issues kind of stack. And they did Delgrassi minis, which included whole mini-series ones where it was just, what if there was a zombie invasion in Delgrassi? Okay, what if there was a Terminator situation? And sometimes there'd be stuff in continuity. They even did a first-person episode with a character that was so awful you never actually saw her on screen. So they decided, okay, we'll do an episode from her perspective, but you'll still never see her, as she was very much in that Maris kind of space of between all the descriptions, you couldn't get a real person.
Gotcha.
Out of them.
All right.
Yeah. So next we are on to, it's amazing finishing the first one at 20 minutes in. We are on to episode 2 titled Calypso. This aired on the 8th of November 2018 with a teleplay by Michael Chabon, story by Sean Cochran and Michael Chabon, and directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi.
Olatunde. I think it's pronounced Olatunde.
Olatunde Osunsanmi. The UK and US number one hits. The UK had Lady Gaga with Shallow, from the
A Star is Born.
yeah, and the Maroon 5 are back, so we'll not cover them in the US. Yeah, the Lady Gaga one, I never saw A Star is Born,
No.
and really acting wise, what I want to see from Lady Gaga generally is what she gives us in spades in American Horror Story. This was fine. It was a fine track. It again just was not what I go to Lady Gaga
No.
for. So, Miles, you're the one who's going to be recapping Calypso in 2 minutes. Why have I set my timer for 15 minutes? You do not have 15 minutes to do this one. So, good luck, and I'll see you in 1,000 years.
Betty Boop cartoons are playing in a space pod as a man is in hypersleep. His escape shuttle drifts past a ship which is drifting alone in space. That ship is Discovery. He wakes up in the sickbay, and a voice tells him to go to that locker and put on a suit. Having played like Bioshock and Halo, we're probably going to be in some first-person shooter territory here. So he gets dressed. The disembodied voice, who calls itself Zora, asks what his name is, and he says his name is Craft. He explores the Discovery, which has been abandoned. Apparently, the ship was abandoned for 1,000 years, and the only thing that exists on it is the ship's AI, which now calls itself Zora. And Zora helps Craft kind of just sort of recover from his wounds and rehabilitates. She teaches him the importance of Taco Tuesday and Earth culture, including the film Funny Face, which is a old Fred Astaire Technicolor musical. It turns out he's a soldier who was fighting in a war 10 years ago, and he stole an enemy pod and escaped. His home planet is just in reach, which he could potentially make with the Discovery's single unnamed shuttle. Discovery itself can make the distance, but Zora was under orders by the last captain to not move from this spot, so she's kind of stuck there. Not wanting to risk it, Zora and Craft start really getting along. Zora tries to simulate his home for him using the sounds of the beach and sharing.
Oh, that's a 2 minutes. Let's see. I'm going to very quickly. Okay, continue.
Craft wants to do something for Zora because she's always doing something for him, so he learns the dance moves from the Fred Astaire movie, gets like a copy of the suit from the replicators, and then gets her to manifest herself as hologram. But instead of the woman the actress from the film, he asks her to appear as how she sees herself. He's trying, because she thinks she's not human, but obviously Craft thinks that she is. They have a dance. They have a little romantic moment, which makes Craft realize, man, I love my wife and my kid. This is awkward, and I don't like this. And Zora's saying, hey, I'm not real. It's okay. And Craft's like, no, you're real. And he decides to risk it for a biscuit with the remaining shuttlecraft. They make their final goodbyes, and as he leaves, we find out that the unnamed shuttlecraft has now been given the name Funny Face, and Discovery carries on.
So that's 1 minute 16 over, but yeah. So Miles, are you a fan of the Odyssey?
I'm aware of their work. I mean, okay, here is the thing. I think the most experience I've ever had with the Odyssey is the French-Japanese co-produced cartoon Ulysses 31, which is awesome. And when you're watching at like 5:30 in the morning at 8 years old, is some trippy shit.
Oh my god, it was fantastic. I when I was a kid, my dad was studying Greco-Roman ancient history at Sussex Uni, and we got all of this coming into us for years. So the Odyssey is a thing I'm very aware of. specifically most recently through the amazing book by Madeline Miller called Circe, which covers her kind of experience of before, during, and after Odysseus's visit. But this, like, Calypso was a nymph who kept Odysseus around for 7 years, and he was missing his wife despite, fucking around with a nymph and having been to war and been traveling around for ages. And eventually he decided, right, no, I need to actually make a go of this and head home. And so that's where the title comes from. I watched this, I was like, oh, this is the good shit. This is the kind of stuff that you can't easily do as just a one-off episode of Discovery.
Like, this feels very kind of Twilight Zone Anthology of the Week.
I felt like maybe there'd be a bit more rummaging around in the remnants of the crew and seeing signs of who they were, but I guess at this point they didn't know who would be ending the show on that. And who knows, we're about to hit the final season, so we might end up revisiting what happens with Zora here. Hell, we didn't even have Zora as a ship-based intelligence in season 2 when this aired. I think before season 2, whenever this aired, basically. Season 3, we get Zora as an actual entity on the ship. So it's kind of cool getting this little glimpse and this weird future, which, of course, is even further in the future now we've hit season 3. 3 and 4, and that's set vastly in the future from the original Disco. I feel I'm showing my hand slightly as to where I feel this.
I really enjoyed it. I think that the actor who plays Kraft does a really good job interacting with a voice, which, you know, for some actors, that is a difficult thing to pull off. But he definitely, I think he was in was it in not Endeavor? What's the heist show by John Rogers?
Oh, Leverage.
Leverage. I think he was in Leverage.
Oh, that's him. God, it's been so long since I've seen Leverage. It's one of those shows I enjoyed season 1 of and just never followed through with. But yeah, he was good. I totally get what you mean about this is very much the setup of any FPS where it's like, yes, quick, this AI voice will get you to go to this locker. Get dressed. Here's some armor. Here's a pulse rifle. Run out, and we're gonna basically Starship Troopers or Aliens.
Like there's 2 steps away from Zora going, okay, now get a wrench. Now, would you kindly kill that splicer?
Oh.
So yeah, out of our list of 2, this was great. Like this could be a science fiction short film in its own right. It has apart from the setting of Discovery itself, it doesn't have. It's not even like that much Trek related.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I solidly reckon this is number 1 out of the 2 that we've got.
Number 1 with a dance number.
Yeah. Well, we always like a dance number. I say that at some point we'll cover very short treks, and I'll have some opinions on some of the musical features of that. Yeah,
we committed to watching everything, didn't we?
Why did we do this?
I don't think we anticipated very short treks happening.
No, I did it because I like your company.
Then you're a fool. You're a fool. I don't even like my company.
Oh no. Okay, so moving swiftly on. We have episode 3, which is titled The Brightest Star. It aired on the 6th of December 2018. It was written by Bo Young Kim and Erica Lippold and directed by Douglas Arniakowski. The UK and US hits were the same hit, which was Ariana Grande with Thank You Next. And
I really want to be a bitch and just say thank you next.
Wow. See, I'm a big fan of Mean Girls, so I definitely appreciate the homage. And thanks to the War Rocket Ajax Discord, I have felt peer pressured into joining a lot of them on a mission of watching the worryingly long Quinton reviews videos about Nickelodeon shows. I've seen 13 hours about Victorious. I've never known what Victorious was until now. So that part of me that's been gaslit into noticing,
See, okay, at least you had an excuse.
it's not a good excuse. So even though I'd seen this mentioned in a Todd in the Shadows video, I had a bit more of an appreciation after being gaslit into being invested in the varied actors that had been in Victorious, which ultimately serves no purpose. And I will still never watch that show, but I've seen 13 hours about that show.
As long as the fact that since Tim Russ is both in Voyager and iCarly doesn't send you off an iCarly rabbit hole. Because, like, there are a few things, there are many things I'll do for love, but I won't do that.
And I don't know who any of those actors in iCarly was, because of course I saw the iCarly videos before seeing those. And I was like, it's Tim Russ! It's a person I recognise! That brother, who I saw in a fleeting clip at first, I was like, is Jerry O'Connell in this? No, sadly no.
He's in The Big Bang Theory.
Anyway, moving on. Brightest Star.
Are you sure you want any of this on a podcast? Are you sure you want to admit to any of this, Charlie?
And we're 37 minutes in and we're on our third episode. It might stay in just if we're that short. Otherwise, there's a lot that we can remove here. A lot of dead weight.
All right, here we go. You have 2 minutes to talk about this episode. Go.
Yes. Brightest Star. Ooh, we're on Kaminar, a planet filled with lens flare and Kelpians. Saru and some other Kelpians are farming in a river while Saru narrates a bit of a story here. Boom! Flash! It's night and everyone's scared. People are being sent off to harvest in, frankly, the most folk horror way that I've seen in a Star Trek. There's a big obelisk. Everyone's in robes. Saru spies on this from afar, watching as the obelisk flashes and everyone vanishes. Saru's dad is one of the robed cultists who let all this happen and is not keen on a discovery Saru has made, some bit of unfamiliar tech, and reckons maybe this is forbidden, so we should get rid of it. Saru asks some questions, which does not go well. This is not a culture who cares for questions. The dad says, we've all got our place in this world, and Saru, he's not a fan of that. He sneaks a look at the technology and sends a message out using it. When farming the next day, Saru goes about his life, plays some dice. At night, he checks for messages, and we see the obelisk ominously humming in the distance. One night, though, there's a hello on the space tablet. So, yeah, that's great. And eventually, Saru gets a message saying, today, which, as a man who's not happy of a life of just waiting to be sacrificed, Saru's down with this. He goes off a wandering with his sister, and they get far enough out that she wants to flee. He says he wants to stay behind and watch for stars and tells her to stay safe. And she leaves in that cool wavy arm Kelpian walk kind of way. That Doug Jones way. A shuttle lands, and while Saru's fear tendrils flare up, he remains behind. It's Giorgio! Yay! The original one! They talk through a translator, and the tech was stolen from the bow. Oh, almost.
All right.
Okay.
Stopwatch and go.
Yeah, he turned it into a communicator, which is an exceptional feat for a pre-warp culture. Giorgio did a lot of work making an exception for rules and allowing him to come up into space. He'll never be able to go home again. He looks out at his village and then decides to leave.
22 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really pleased they got to use the set that they were at. Because they filmed this at the same time as they did the Kelpian episode. And that way it's not like, oh yeah, here's the main episode, here's some soundstage. I forget most of what happened with the ominous humming obelisk, but it wasn't good. It wasn't pleasant.
No. It's what big humming obelisks do when the harvest is involved.
Yeah. Anytime people talk about the harvest, it's pretty bad.
The 1970s Quatermass serial, which is the fourth and final in the Quatermass series, where it turns out that stone circles are actually used by Lovecraftian space aliens to harvest the young of the planet Earth to feed off of.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Like, this episode, we're briefly in some Midsommar territory. At least no Kelpians jumped off a rock and had to be brained to death.
Oh man, that film.
Oh man, I saw it in the cinema.
Same.
I may have mentioned this on the podcast before. The reason I went to see Midsommar was because a co-worker went to see it the day before, and he was pissed. Like, the film made him angry, and just like the emotional intensity of his rage made me go, right, I'm going to the budget cinema right now. It's after work to go see this. Because nice. I want to see what created such a visceral reaction. This is not a Midsommar podcast, which would be, 6 episodes in filled of chanting. This is a Star Trek podcast. So, God, Saru and Doug Jones are the best things about Discovery.
Oh my God. Like, I love that they got a whole bunch of people trying to ape Doug Jones' movements. He moves so uniquely and weirdly. It's what makes him perfect for any of these kind of roles. Watching other people try and do it, it's like, oh.
You tried.
It was interesting seeing the notes on this episode. Apparently, Doug Jones didn't think this was the way that the culture was going to go. He figured they were a bit more just like cattle or anything from the first season, and then when he saw this, he was like, "Actually, no, this is good." Yeah, rightfully so. Yeah, it's a good fun one.
Like, again, you got like a nice little, you got to set it up. It shows that what makes Saru like a really good multifaceted character, because even though he's a character for a good chunk of the first series kind of dominated by his fear and his ability to detect fear and death, he does still have that spark within him which allows him to push against his own nature to satisfy what he wants from his life in the universe.
Yeah, I like that, especially given that as time goes on, you get quite dissatisfied at the concept of Star Trek races being monocultures, and seeing someone breaking out, like seeing it all from their perspective.
Saru and Kelpians, I don't think it really counts as a monoculture, because that's quite literally just a defense mechanism of his people. He's quite literally, in the same way, like you could say that Star Trek is about how humans can battle their own worst primitive nature to become something like the Federation and Starfleet. Yeah. Saru is also, a being who is in conflict with his own primitive nature, and how that conflict allows him to achieve so much.
Yeah, I like that. How we can all ascend from, to something a bit more. But yeah, it was good fun. Question is, I guess, like, I still think I prefer Calypso to this. Where does it stand compared to Runaway?
4th. I think this goes under Calypso. I think this is like, for now, it's a good second.
Yeah, it's one of those things of, it's good and we learn about these people. Like Tilly, we kind of know a lot of her feelings, a lot of how she's had to grow and change, and that is kind of in the show already. And we're not going to get any world-changing epiphanies for her there, but getting this key bit of backstory is lovely for Saru.
Yeah. So, it's me again.
Yeah, finally. We're back round to you for the final episode of this season of Short Trek. This one is The Escape Artist. It aired on the 3rd of January 2019. Written by Michael McMahon. It was his first Star Trek work. And directed by, is it Ryan Wilson? I always forget.
I think so, Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, that's it. Directed by Rainn Wilson. The UK #1 hit was Ava Max with Sweet But Psycho, and the US had Ariana Grande still with Thank You Next. I said something very cruel in the chat about Ava Max.
Oh, did you?
Watching it. I might have. I did feel, and I don't know if this was coming off of having just watched Lady Gaga not be fully Lady Gaga, but it felt like she was kind of Hot Topic merch Harley Quinn fan version of Lady Gaga.
You've never been to Hot Topic, have you?
I'm aware of its vibes.
You've seen it on Delgrassi. Just admit it, Charlie.
Hey, that's Canada. I don't know if they even have one there. I've seen American culture. Enough seeps through like osmosis.
No, I think you're pretty right. Like the song was fine.
Basically that. It didn't really make any waves. What will hopefully is the return of Harcourt Fenton Mudd. So, Mars, are you ready to make the sanest man go mad?
If I didn't, I'd be having gibbets on a beach.
Okay, well, enjoy those gibbets on a beach. Go.
Harry Fencourt Mudd has been arrested again. He's on a ship, and he's been taken to the Federation to get handed over for some sweet bounty money. He tries to smooth talk his way out. He tries to bribe his way out, but the bounty hunter, the Tellarite bounty hunter, isn't buying, especially since Harry slept with his sister and stole his prized familial cudgel. As Harry tries all his different escape attempts, we get flashbacks. This story has layers, like Inception, to see other times that Harry has tried to get out of similar situations in same but different ways, and none of them work. Each layer we go down, as we go deeper, we see that each of Harry's plans ended the same way. Him being handed over to the Federation. The Tellarite and Harry beam over to the Federation ship, and the Federation officer goes, "Oh God, you're one of them, aren't you?" And the Tellarite's like, "You what, mate?" And it turns out that someone's been flooding the market with bootleg Harry Fencourt Mudd androids, who are all in a room just talking to each other about gibbets on a beach, whatever the fuck that means. And the Tellarite realizes, oh shit, I've been swindled, because it turns out the person who sold him a perfectly good 100% mint-in card Harry Fencourt Mudd was actually Harry Fencourt Mudd, who is flooding the market with bootleg holofoil Harry Fencourt Mudds, who are all serving for him. And as the story ends, Harry Fencourt Mudd is gonna sell some other poor rube another Harry.
We'll call that a second.
Okay, so Charlie.
Yes.
What the fuck is a gibbet?
I don't know. It's evidently a cocktail. Looking at all that. But yeah. I don't know offhand. Yeah. So, yeah, this was fun. It felt very much like Rainn Wilson kind of just noodling.
Yeah. The only two things I've seen Rainn Wilson in apart from this is The Office and the James Gunn film Super.
Oh god, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, where he definitely murders a guy with a hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was a fun little short, like a 2000 AD Future Shock, where it's a 5-page short story to just then delivers in like a neat little twist.
Yeah. Again, like Calypso, it feels like exactly what I wanted from short treks. Like these tiny weird little vignettes. So, a jipper is, according to Rainn Wilson, lotus fruit flash frozen along with the blood of a flea blocks, just a hint of lime, as well as 100 proof grain alcohol. So there you go.
Okay, as someone who has drunken grain alcohol in the form of Everclear, never again. No. Yeah, you'd have to be a robot to enjoy that.
So yeah, it was a joy. It was good fun.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the last time we see him before the original series. But yeah, he's someone who I was thinking while I was watching it about when we were saying Paul Wesley was being Kirk, he wasn't being Shatner. This feels like being Mud, not being the actor of Mud.
Yeah. Like, I've seen Mud's women at some point in my life. And, like, you know, Rainn Wilson isn't a huge ham actor in the same way. He doesn't have that theatrical bombacity. He does have that kind of... He definitely has that kind of sleazy used car dealer who's way in over his head.
Yeah, and the only way he knows to go is just digging deeper.
Dig deeper and just keep spinning the wheels of the con. You know, start another con in the middle of the con you're on. Eventually, all these cons will kind of level out and you won't die.
Yeah, basically that. So, where should this go on our big old list?
I think it's better than Runaway.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm torn with Brightest Star, which gave me some nice insight, some nice light folk horror vibes, and taught us about a person. Well, this one was fun nonsense. Like, you can definitely tell this was written by the guy that would go on to do Lower Decks.
This does have Rick and Morty energy. This feels like this would have been an episode of Rick and Morty where they're all robots. And at some point, there'd be a joke about incest.
I mean, this is a good way of persuading me to put it under Brightest Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's good. It does go on maybe a little longer than necessary.
I think it's one level of con too many.
Yeah.
So, like, I think this will definitely be third.
Cool. So, yeah, with our little month-long sidebar from actual Casual Trek, we now have a list of 4 items, back down to single figures from where we were in the main show. And at the moment, we've got Calypso at number 1, Runaway at number 4. This is a very top-heavy list because these have all been good fun. It's rare we can get an episode of Casual Trek where that is the case, and it's rare we can get an episode of Casual Trek that's this short. So, play us out. You can find us on Ko-fi. You can find us on Blue Sky at Casual Trek or Casual Trek Pod.
Casual Trek. I got there just in time.
Trek. Yeah! In on the ground floor with that Blue Sky. We are in theory on Twitter at Casual Trek Pod, but fuck Twitter.
Fuck Twitter.
Yeah. And yeah, next time we're going to be doing more of this because they released 2 seasons. And Miles, where can we find you if people want to catch up with you?
You can find me having Jippers on an Innsmouth. Oh, no, not on Innsmouth, an isthmus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Innsmouth would have been a bit fishy.
It's very fishy. So you can find me on my personal blog at mareedlobato.wordpress.com. And Charlie, where can they find you?
You can find me at faketales.com or on Blue Sky. I'm Skyshark, I think. Yeah. And skyshark.itch.io for my comic and role-playing supplements. Yeah, so that's it from us. We'll see you next time for some more short fun.
Go do a Starfleet, a short Starfleet, if you will, and live long and smoke me a jipper. I'll be back for breakfast.
Yeah, and eat half a jelly baby. You've been listening to Casual Trek by Charlie Etheridge Nunn and Miles Reed Lobato. Music by Alfred Etheridge Nunn. Casual Trek's part of the Nerd and Tie Network, and if you want to support us monetarily, because you love what we do that much, you can now do that by going to Ko-fi and looking up Casual Trek. There's a link in the show notes.